I didn't know we were already recording.
We're on.
Man, I got to watch what I say because sometimes Alex just hits the record button and things are happening and I'm not totally aware of it.
Okay.
Hot mic.
Father on Purpose, episode 234, movie night at Christmas discussion guide and action.
Thank you for the formal introduction. Hey, Dad, welcome to the Father on Purpose podcast. And Lawson and I are going to try something. We're 200 and something episodes in. We're going to try something we've never done before. And in advance, I'll go ahead and say it. You're welcome, because you're going to love today's show. Today's show is going to be fantastic. If you're listening to it in real time, which if you're not where you've been, you might be catching this in March or July. I think it's still valuable. I don't want you to turn it off all the way because the idea could work any time of the year.
Absolutely.
It just so happens that during this December month or Christmas season, it's a uniquely easy idea to work with. So hang on to that for just a second. Before we dive in, I want to say three quick things. Number one, today's show is brought to you by Range Leather. We love Kyle and the team at Range Leather. We've met them a lot. I've been out there. I've seen the shop. I haven't seen it since they doubled it, and then they added the coffee store next door. So can't wait to go back to Laramie. We're hoping we can do that next year. Love Range Leather. Go to rangeleather.com. And when you do, snag something amazing and use the code MJ15 to get 15% off your order. MJ15, get 15% off your order. And we've heard from Kyle, the CEO at Range Leather, that a ton of people, like way over 100 in the last year, have gone to rangeleather.com and bought something from this show using that code. And we could not be more grateful because when you support our sponsors support us. Thank you so much. Secondly, if you want to help us out every single month, you could become part of the Fatherhood Guard. You'll get a slick Range Leather hat as a welcome gift for any amount, 5, 10, 50, $500 a month. You pick the number, we send you a hat. Go to manhoodjourney.org/guard, GUARD, in order to take advantage of that opportunity to become a part of the Fatherhood Guard. And third, and Lawson's like, what's third? He always says two things, but today I've got a third thing. Last week, at the time of recording this, I happened to sit down at a Starbucks in Louisville, Kentucky, with a guy named Scott from Florida. Scott is a Father on Purpose listener, and for the very first time, after texting a few times, he and I got to sit across the table from each other and share a cup of coffee. Hey, Scott, how's it going? One of the things Scott told me that was fantastic, I'm so grateful for, is that every week he sends the podcast to somebody. Some weeks he sends it to several somebodies. Dad, go be like Scott from Florida. Send today's episode to somebody. Help us spread the word about this podcast. You could send it to your brother-in-law, your cranky neighbor, your mean boss. You could send it to your friend. You could send it to your small group, your pastor, your men's leader. Send today's show to somebody and tell them that you love them. Now, I know Scott's going to send this to lots more people, Lawson, because look, there's his name.
Yeah, right.
Famous. He's now he's basically famous, which is amazing. Lawson, what are we going to do today? We're going to do something really fascinating and very fun. It's going to come with a physical resource you can download from, whatever iTunes, Spotify, whatever tool you're using. We'll have a link in the show notes where you can go get this tool and it will help you do something. Why don't you set this thing up, man, before we dive in?
Yeah. So here's the idea, fellas. We've got this time on our hands, more likely than not. Sometimes we come into the holidays and have a little extra time, some vacation time. Our kids are home, they're out of school, or they're back home visiting from college or wherever they live, and they're bringing maybe even their own kids back home. And so we thought, how can we, cast a vision for the Father on Purpose guys to host a movie night in your home? We're all probably already got those kinds of ideas teed up. But what could we do with that? Like, let's say the movie ends and then we have a kind of around the table like discussion, not super formal. It's typical you do that anyway. You get back in the car after the movie and talk about what you liked, what you didn't like, what you saw. But I think as an intentional dad, we could use this as an opportunity to say before the movie gets going, like, hey guys, gather around we're going to watch, Kent and I picked It's a Wonderful Life, which is kind of a classic holiday season, Christmas time. Um, and I did rewatch it recently just to kind of get my head around where we are today. I actually love the movie a lot, but now sitting down with my notebook, and being like, all right, I'm going to take some notes on this and think about the podcast. Man, it was really neat to see all these little things that I hadn't seen before.
And are you sure, Lawson, we're not going to do formal questions? Like I was thinking we'd do like British Parliament, where they'd have like the white hair with the curly wig.
Big,
and like
formal
a gavel.
Dress up. Yeah,
the floor does not recognize the teenager. Like I thought that's what we were going to do. No,
maybe you could do that. You do, yeah, exactly. Yes,
Kent, you do that. Out of line.
You do that, and your family would be like, "Oh boy, here we go again."
That's typical.
Again,
actually, my family wouldn't even be
Christmas.
Surprised.
But hey, look, and so before the movie begins this time, maybe do a little something different. Maybe, and it doesn't have to be It's a Wonderful Life. It could be whatever, any Christmas movie you pick, Polar Express or something else, But say beforehand, hey, when this is over, I've got some things I just want us to talk about. So pay close attention, and maybe even throw out a couple seed it, like throw some ideas out there, like, hey, pay attention and look for these 2 or 3 things, and depending on your kid's age. Ages, maybe they would love to get into something like that, like you throw in some clues.
And now that you mentioned that, I want to make sure, just for a moment, I want to take a quick detour. And that is, before you all start emailing Lawson and railing at him and screaming at him for what movie we picked. Oh, you mean It's a Wonderful Life with the bad theology about angels? Okay,
right.
Look, man, just hang on.
Hang on.
We're going to use It's a Wonderful Life as an example. Now, I personally think it's a great movie. I love it. However, there are some moments in there where people get drunk. There's some moments in there where people punch each other in the face. There's some moments where there's like wrecked cars and the dad goes half crazy and starts kicking things. So, okay, you could look at It's a Wonderful Life through a dark lens and go, I'm not showing my 4-year-old It's a Wonderful Life. Well, probably not. Probably not. So take today's show, and if you like the idea behind It's a Wonderful Life, map it to whatever movie you do want to show. If you are anti-movie and you never show your children movies, that's fine too. Map it to something. Read a book, find a way. The idea is, let's use a resource that at this time of year, people tend to be a little more open to, and let's leverage it to be intentional fathers on purpose, because it's easy. It's like low-hanging fruit.
Right.
And so I'm going to come back to It's a Wonderful Life specifically, and we'll use it kind of like a spine. You're going to use it as a spine today for today's episode, but you can go off that, spine and do something else. And if you don't like that movie selection, let's blame it on Lawson, and you can email him at lawsondoesn't.care@fatheronpurpose.com. Just go ahead, try that email. It's not going to go anywhere, but feel free.
If it makes you feel better, let me have it. Let me have it.
Lawson.
I mean, but look, you could use it. Use Star Wars. I don't care. The point is, God. You as the dad, as the leader of your home, as the godly father leading your home, you could use a real life story that may have who knows what in it. God can use anything, and I think that's the idea. Is we just picked It's a Wonderful Life because it just came to our mind and it's kind of a classic. But I will say this: there are like sitting there watching it, I took away some things my own self just like what sorts of character traits does each role portray in this movie? You got Mr. Potter, you got George Bailey,
Potter.
You got Mary Bailey, and then in different stages of George's life, things kind of change and adjust. Although I did note that Mr. Potter was never brought back in. Spoiler alert, by the way. He was never brought back in.
There's no redeeming curve to his his
right. Everybody
arc.
else in the entire movie was
you know what? He's a good villain. He's the villain in the film. You don't like him. If you do like him, sorry, pal, you got some major issues. If you go, oh, Mr. Potter's the hero of the film, you misunderstand his role in life. But he's a good villain, through the whole film. And I kid a little bit with my family, and they know I love Mr. Potter. Like I love Old Man Potter, because he's just so classic, right? It's just like, it's so predictable and it's
Right.
so selfish and it's so greed dominant and it's so like,
Yeah.
if he can get the upper hand, he doesn't care who he steps on. You get the sense he'd step on his own mother if she had $1 he could take from her. Like, it's just, he's so mean.
One of the other guys in the movie about Mr. Potter says he is sick in his soul. He said he's sick in his soul. He hates anybody who has something he doesn't. Like, it's beyond just greedy.
My favorite line, one of my very favorite lines in the movie, is when they're talking about George Bailey's dad, who recently passed away. And it's this very somber moment. They're in this board meeting, and Potter's trying to take over the building and loan. And Potter says, "Now, George Bailey was no businessman." And he goes, "Oh, I don't mean any disrespect. He was a man of high ideals." And then he goes, "So-called." And then he keeps going. I mean, I love it. It's one of my very favorite moments in the movie is when he can't even give somebody a compliment without sliding in and going, "It was a man of high ideals, so-called." And he goes on. So funny, man. So funny.
But for instance, I'll just throw this one out. Afterwards, the movie ends, you got your kids around, you got your family around, everybody's in their jammies.
Clarence gets his wings. Oh, whoops. Oops. I've said too much.
You are ruining this movie for somebody.
Alert.
Look, it was from 1928.
If you have not
so
seen
if you
It's a
haven't seen
Wonderful
it by
Life
now,
yet,
you've had almost 100 years.
Thank you. Yes. I was going to say the same thing, man. It's like circa World War I. If you haven't seen this movie, that's on you, pal.
Yeah. You haven't seen Rambo? That's your fault.
You haven't seen Rocky 13? That's on you, man.
That's another great. But like, to me, with your kids, ask them.
Yeah.
What would Mr. Potter represent?
Ooh,
nice. Kind of worldly savviness. It's like pure secular world with no morals or ethics or feelings.
Right.
Could be the big, greedy, nasty corporation that's just out to, ruin and take over the world. Right. Have some discussion with your kids. Like, ask them, what do you know anybody in your life like that reminds you of Mr. Potter, and let them just go with it. You don't know where your little kids are going to go, but, maybe your college kids are up against something that you can go deep on something like that. Because maybe they're looking for a career change or the start of their career, and they've got two options, and one's a super, super, secular world, and this other one's over here. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out.
Well, and for the most part, especially your young kids and young teens, they're going to see Potter as the anti-hero, right? He's the bad guy. He's the villain. And they're not going to identify with him, right? They're not going to say, "Oh, yeah. Like, I want to be greedy. I want to step on people. I want to take advantage of them. I want to lie, cheat, steal my way to the top." Like, no one's going to go, "Yeah, he's my hero." However, for older kids, like teenagers, high schoolers, even college-age kids, there are some powerful lines of questioning you could embark upon about Potter specifically that would reveal in their own heart something very powerful. So, for example, one of the things Potter does in the movie is he knows something about George Bailey, right? He knows where the money is that George is missing, but he chooses to hide that fact because it's to his advantage. Potter gains an advantage by not helping George Bailey, and he didn't really lie out loud about it,
right?
But he never said, "Yeah, it's in my paper." I'm literally holding the money right here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, a question you could ask your college age daughter or son, or savvy 14, 16-year-old daughter or son, is you could say, "Hey, have you ever withheld some information in order to gain an advantage?" And they're going to go, "What do you mean?" Mm-hmm. Well, like, for example, that story or that rumor or that lie that went around in your friend circles that you chose not to speak up and you chose not to share the truth about it because you were going to be ridiculed, or then you were going to be the one they lied about. And so you just kept quiet because you didn't want to step into the problem.
Yeah.
Guess what? You're Old Man Potter. And then they're going to be like mind blown and go, "Wait a minute. I'm the villain of my story at my high school."
That's a great example.
And it's subtle.
Love that.
It's subtle. It's very nuanced. You can't do that with an 8-year-old probably. But you could ask an 8-year-old, hey, have you ever done something where other people got hurt? And in the end, you kind of didn't care because, you won or you got what you wanted. And they'd be like, yeah. And then the minute somebody sees themselves in the mirror of Old Man Potter, it does something to your soul. Like it's convicting. It's convicting because we all want to be George Bailey, or we all want to be Clarence the Angel. We all want to be Mary because she's so supportive. That's who we want to identify with. But I'll guarantee you, every dad listening to this show and all of their kids have at some point hurt somebody on purpose.
Yeah,
and
we're
got
not
an
innocent.
advantage.
Yeah,
and didn't do anything about it. And man, so there's a way to take even Old Man Potter and hold him up as a bit of a looking glass and expose something inside of us that needs to be redeemed.
Yeah, well said. And speaking of Mary, she just represents this kindness, patience, loyalty. Like she just believed in her husband.
A lot of people compare me to Mary. They're like, yeah,
do
Kent
they?
is a lot
Is
like
that real, Alice?
Mary.
We cut that last bit out.
No, you could watch that movie. I'm sure there are 50 characters in that movie. There'd be 49 other characters people would compare me to before they went, yeah, he's a lot like Mary.
You're a lot like the cop. The cop at the end comes in with a what's the not harmonica, the thing you squeeze and play the musical instrument.
Bagpipe? Is it a bagpipe?
No, it's the piano it's air.
Oh, accordion.
Accordion. Yeah. Why did the cop come running in at the end wearing an accordion? Thought that was weird. Anyway.
Yeah, that is random.
Luke 12:15 says, one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. And I think Mary knew that money is not a measure of a rich life. So, depending on where your kids are or depending on what's going on in your lives as a family, that may be a topic of like where do we have an abundance?
Yeah.
What do we share, in our family abundantly? Those are just, just some thoughts on the money piece, because the movie has a lot to do. Mr. Potter is this greedy owner, and he's always trying to take over. George is running the oh gosh, what's it called, building and loan.
Yeah.
And so, money has a part of it. They all chip in at the end.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. The point wasn't anything really necessarily to do about money. It was more a tool that the writer of the movie used to point out how rich the Bailey family was with themselves, with the love that they have for each other between George and Mary, him and his kids. Now, I want to pivot just a little bit and say it was I think it's kind of a crux of the movie, obviously, is at the end when all of it gets taken away. He wishes, and Clarence the angel fulfills that wish by him having not lived. And then he gets to see what everyone else's lives would have been.
Yeah, that's right.
Without him. I think that's an interesting kind of point to have as discussion with our kids, and tie it. Maybe I'm just throwing this out again. Ephesians 2 verse 10 says, for we are God's workmanship, created for good works. So every life has a God-given purpose. And I would ask, how are our lives intertwined? So if one is out, what happened? How did God use every life for his purpose? Now he gives us individually a purpose.
Yeah.
But somehow, man, it's like he works us all together.
Yeah.
And I need you, Kent, as much as you need me, and vice versa. It's like, how do you have that discussion with your children about the experience that George had, which was he didn't realize it until it was gone. Yeah.
And most stories have a plot, and they have a bunch of subplots. Sometimes there's not much of a subplot, and sometimes there's not much of a plot, frankly. Some stories. The plot of this movie is you got this guy who thinks his life is meaningless. And then he basically says, yeah, it'd be better if I'd never been born at all. And then he gets the opportunity to experience how sad and dark life would have been for people around him had he not been born. Sorry, that's the most significant spoiler alert ever if you haven't seen the film.
Dad, you really spoiled the whole
No, that's weak sauce. Come on, you got the passion. Okay. Give me the passion. Dad,
you really spoiled the whole movie for everyone. Just for no reason.
And what's interesting about that one, Lawson, is that will translate up and down the age bracket. Now, obviously, an 8-year-old is going to have a very different. I'm not even sure you should watch it with an 8-year-old, but if you watch it with an 8-year-old, they're going to have a very different way of expressing that and feeling that than, say, a 23-year-old who's home from college. It's easier to, let's start at the top. For the 23-year-old, you can be asking questions like, who did you encourage?
Why are you still in college if you're 23?
Get on with your wonderful life, because right now your life is just stuck in neutral.
I can say that because it took me quite a while. It took me quite a while to get through the 4 years of college.
Why can't you be more like your brother? Yeah, that's what we always say. But the older kids, right? The young adults can sometimes already be experiencing this, like, not despondency or like depression or some mental health crisis, but they could be at a place where they're like, man, I'm not important. I'm not significant. Every now and then, now that I have boys who are all in their early, I have 3 boys who are all in their early to mid 20s. We'll be watching guys play, in the NBA or in the NFL, and they'll say their age. They'll say, oh, he's 22 years old. And my 22-year-old sons will look and go, okay, wait a minute. He's literally on television playing his sport, and I'm sitting here eating Cheetos. Like, my fingers have cheese on them. And so every now and then you can have that moment, especially in your 20s, where you start to see people's careers diverge and them get, quote unquote, famous or successful.
Yeah.
And you can start to feel like, man, I haven't accomplished anything. All I do is, I love my girlfriend faithfully, and we're walking in purity, and I go to church every weekend. I volunteer half the time and sing on the worship band, and I'm respectful to my parents, and I'm holding down, albeit too low of a pay of a job. And they start listing that, and then they feel like I'm accomplishing nothing. I am worth nothing, because the world wants to tell them, if you're not a YouTube superstar by 23, you're a failure. And so that can really start to set in with your kids, even just coming home from college. Now, the flavor of that for your 8 or 10-year-old is, do you think you have any friends, or have you been kind to anyone this week? And here's one thing the 10-year-old can't process, but you can help them unpack. Your 10-year-old was kind to another kid at school. Let's just say that happened. And you ask your 10-year-old about it. Hey, so what did you do this week where you were kind to somebody? And he goes, oh, you know what? I invited Billy to sit with us at our lunch table. And you go, hey, nice work, man. You invited Billy to sit with you at your lunch table. Then you could ask him, like, follow-up questions. Hey, did Billy say thank you? And your 10-year-old kind of looks off in the distance and goes, no. Did Billy tell you a day or two later how much it meant to him that you invited him to sit at the table? Come to think of it, no. Did Billy tell you about the fact that he went home and the first thing he told his mom and dad was, hey, you'll never guess who invited me to sit with me today? No, he didn't bring any of that up. Then you go, could Billy be really, really happy and have that effect really affected him positively, and you have no idea? And your 10-year-old will scratch their chin, even at 10 years old, and they'll be like, maybe so. And then if you want to drop the hammer and have them totally get it, you can put them in Billy's shoes for a moment. And you can say, well, let's turn the tables for a second. Tommy, did someone invite you to sit with them at lunch at one point? Yeah. Frankie did 2 weeks ago. Did you ever close the loop with Frankie? Did you ever go back and tell Frankie how much it meant to you? And Tommy goes, gosh, I never did. So you start to create in the mind. Now, we know that when we're 50, that things we did when we were 30 and things we did when we were 40 affected people, good or bad, and vice versa. And, like just today, I sent a video to a friend of mine and just said, hey, man, one of the things I'm really thankful for this year is you, because you made a big difference in my life. So, like, I'm becoming more and more thankful as I get older, trying to be, right? But, man, for a 10-year-old, they might not have experienced that. There's not enough, like, cognitive wherewithal for that to happen, but they've been the beneficiary of something good, and they themselves probably didn't go close the loop and say, that really meant a lot to me. And so as we're doing that, things like, is your life useless? Are you a zero impact human? Those kinds of questions. Well, how you ask them of your 22-year-old might be different than how you ask them of your 10-year-old, but that feeling, that desire to be liked or to be important or to be significant or to be relevant, that's a desire we all have. And as dads, we can lean into the 10-year-old version of that, the 15-year-old version of that, or the 20-year-old version of that, all after watching the same movie.
Very good, dude. I asked ChatGPT what are some lessons to take away from the movie. It's interesting what
Nice.
ChatGPT can come up with.
How did he
sometimes.
do?
Okay.
Real quick, do you call ChatGPT a gender? Do you ever say he did this or she did that?
I say it.
It. Okay. Super.
Yeah. What do you do?
Well, I say she all the time, and my wife was challenging me the other day, going, "Why do you call ChatGPT a girl?" Because I even have the voice part of it set to like the British guy, right? I love British accents. God love them. I love them. So if I'm ever talking to the ChatGPT guy, he's like, "Oh, right, Kent. What a great question. The reason it's called the Iron Curtain, that was the question the other day. So thanks for asking. And if you have any more questions, just tee them on up. I love my British ChatGPT.
You just got a British chap for a friend.
But I still call him
You should call him Chap GPT.
Chap. But I still call her a girl. And I do the same thing with Google Maps. I say, she told me to turn left. I'm going to go where the lady says. She told me to turn right. She says there's traffic. I'd call her a girl. And April the other day was asking me, like, why do you do that? And I just blurted out, because I think women are usually more helpful. And I'm like, golly, that's really deep in my soul. Like down somewhere deep in my soul, I think women are more helpful. And so when ChatGPT helps me, I call her a girl. When the Google Maps that just shows me the directions, it's not a lady, it's not a guy, I call her a girl. I don't know why. Sorry, little diversion.
Yeah. That detour brought to you by
rain weather. If you're going on a detour, you better pack a bag and take a nice bag if you're going to go on a detour.
Well, you made me think I'm tying this to what you just said.
Are we off that now? Did we run out of ChatGPT time? with Kent's stupid diversion, I got to move on to my next point.
You can tell you and I are almost on vacation. So talking to your kid, and having them reflect about, like you just said, the lesson that he or she would learn is like, maybe I could do more of that too. A message of the movie was about community. Community reflects God's design for kind of us caring for each other, kind of like you were proposing. One of the scriptures that came up was Galatians 6 verse 2, bear one another's burdens. And I felt that with George Bailey, man, like his whole life, he was a big dreamer, right? From a kid on, he wanted to go see the world and travel and build things and learn. And he just had these grand visions for his life. And he would just about get ready to take that step and something would happen. And it would keep him there. What was the name of the place? The city?
Oh goodness. Oh, I can't. Pottersville is in the dark version. Hold on. Pottersville is what it became in the dark version. Falls. Something
Grove?
Falls.
Okay, yeah. All right, whatever.
As you can see, we did great prep for today's show.
We really did our homework on this. He never got out of the city, but his brother did.
Yeah.
And Sam, what's his face, did, the guy
Wainwright. Sam Wainwright.
Hee-haw. That goes on to make billions and jillions of dollars. And
Bedford, is it
and
Bedford
even
Falls?
in the movie.
Yes, I just Googled it. It's
Okay.
Bedford Falls, but I knew it before I Googled it.
Okay, good. Thank you for interrupting me.
I just wanted the points.
For those of you that don't know, Kent just won $5.
Exactly, a little sad bit.
So I saw George as his life was one of obligation, kind of duty. He was always the good son. He was always the good neighbor. He was always bailing people out, even at his own expense.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he felt like he had done that over and over and over. And other people, like his brother goes to war and wins the Medal of Honor. Sam goes on to make all this money. And Sam even says when he sees um, George and Mary, he's like, I told George he should, he
Right.
turned me down,
Right.
and now look what he missed out on, and then they turn around and they drive off in their expensive car wearing all their jewelry, and George and Mary are just standing there. George was always almost there, but he,
Yeah.
from obligation or duty or whatever, stayed where he was, even though he was the one that had all the big dreams,
Yeah.
And so I think there's something in that to have as a family discussion of like, what hasn't worked out in your life? What did you think? I've got an example of my own self where I thought God's path for me was one way, in a career, didn't get it, was interviewing, another one comes along. Oh my gosh, it would have been so perfect. It was so great. I would have blah, blah, blah. That one didn't happen. Wound up having to go. And at the time I thought having to go take a job that was like half what we'd been making before. It wasn't at all what I thought my big dreams were about for my career and life. Turns out it was the best thing that ever could have happened. And God had the right path, obviously, of course, carved out. And I
Yeah.
just didn't want to follow it at the time,
Mm.
and so I didn't know. Hindsight, I know now, but at the time,
Yeah.
and so that's where your faith is built. So having
Right.
that sort of discussion with, in our case, George Bailey in mind, because he was just always almost about to capture his dream,
Yeah.
but never did, until he sees that it
Yeah.
without him, what he would have missed and what all of them would have missed, and what God would have done, had he, because of him.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And so having that, I think, is
And the themes that run through the movie are endless. I mean, seriously, for example, a simple example. Billy, his uncle, makes a mistake that basically causes them all kinds of trouble and could end up with one or both of them actually going to prison. So there's like this whole theme of sin, error, mistake, repentance, forgiveness, grace, like this just in the relationship between George and his Uncle Billy. There's all these things that have to happen where George needs to forgive Uncle Billy. Uncle Billy needs to kind of come clean. There's all these things that need to happen in the film. Mary is forgiving, patient, loving, kind, graceful, tenacious. Like at the end of the movie, she goes and rounds everybody up and gets the whole town rallied. She rallies the town to her husband's, salvation kind of thing. And when you look at all those themes, there's like 10-year-old versions of those themes. There's 16-year-old versions of those themes. There's 23-year-old versions of those themes. Who has made a mistake in your life that you need to give them grace? And until you give them grace and forgiveness for that mistake, you're just going to be an angry, bitter, frustrated. Like at one point he calls Potter, you're just a warped, frustrated old man. And then about halfway into the film, when George is at his worst, he goes, "You once called me a warped, frustrated old man. What are you but a warped, frustrated young man?" And that's what he becomes. He literally becomes the thing he hates, because he's so mad and so desperate and so angry. And so, like, we've all been there. We've all been at that place where we're like, man, I'm becoming the villain of this story. And that's exactly what happens to George. And George gets rescued by God. There's angelic intervention. Now, granted, do angels actually got to earn their wings? And are they named Clarence? And is there a second class angel? Okay, you got to overlook a few, theologically dicey moments.
Yeah. In fact, the biggest is at the very beginning when the movie opens, you can hear people praying, and then it cuts to the universe, and the two galaxies are talking to each other, and one says, "Joseph, I need you to take a look at George Bailey."
Right.
Like, come on, let's be a little bit graceful, because back then it was pretty hard to make
He's
movies.
Discouraged. But even that, what a great line, right? Where it's like the question is he sick?
Yeah,
Nope,
I caught that.
Worse,
Yep.
He's discouraged, and you're like, ooh, that is a good line. That is a good line. what's worse, being sick or being discouraged? And so what a fantastic line. There are 100 ways to pull lessons out of this film. Here's what we're going to do for you. Our faithful podcast listener, we have built a resource, a simple tool. If you just want us to start you kind of on first base, there's going to be 3 steps on this tool. Step 1, it is important you kind of tee up the idea with your family. A, so they don't all scurry off to bed. B, so you don't start the movie at 9 o'clock. You're going to be having these conversations at 2 a.m. So there's a little bit of prep thinking you want to do. Start the movie at 6 or 6:30, right after an early dinner. Let's go. But before you start the movie, just say, hey, everybody, listen, after the movie, I got a few questions I'd love to kick around. They have to do with the movie, so pay attention. Let's have some fun. Pass the popcorn, get moving, watch the movie. Step 2. Step 3, we're just going to give you 10 or 15 questions that you could ask. There are 100, maybe 1,000, and we're probably not going to get them all right. And you're going to have to dial them in based on the mix of your kids' ages and their temperaments and their intelligence level and what words they do or don't understand. But here's the plot of what we're doing on this episode appears to be leverage a holiday movie so you can have good dad conversation time.
Yeah.
That is the plot of what this appears to be about. However, there's a subplot. The subplot, even to today's episode. Here's the subplot. All truth is God's truth. And if you see truth in a movie or hear it in a song or see it on stage somewhere, you can use that thing to point people back to God. Like, let's not point them to their angel second class or their guardian angel or their own chutzpah or their own community support. That's all great. But let's point them back to the character and the nature of God. And what's awesome is so many movies can do that. You can do that even that's one of the reasons I love Old Man Potter. Hey, his lines are hilarious. He's just funny. But there's a villain in every story. Right? The red dragon in Revelation, Satan himself. That's who Potter represents, is worldly treasure man. Awesome. Knowing that, George Bailey represents the savior, and etc. So as you go through these, all story is the same story. All truth is God's truth. Let's not lose sight of the fact that anything coming at us from the culture, media, movies, whatever, can be a teachable moment if we just take the time to pull it out and harvest it out. And so we just hope you'll do that. And frankly, we had a debate over 4 or 5 other movies we could have done this with, and we just chose It's a Wonderful Life. It's universal. It's great. It's, here's the best question to ask your kids. This is a secret little sleeper question. The whole movie, unless you get the weird colorized version, is going to be in black and white. But here's what's fascinating. At the 6, 8, or 10 minute mark, you forget you're watching in black and white.
Yeah.
It's amazing. First question you could ask your kids is, was the movie in color or black and white? And they're going to stare at the ceiling and wonder. They won't remember because they'll be like, shoot, that whole thing was in black and white. I forgot. Because you get pulled into the story so well, you forget the movie was filmed almost 100 years ago. Dive in to something. Now, it may be another movie. It may be your Christmas pageant at your church. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Leverage something that's going on around the holidays to create meaningful conversation around deeper topics. It's easy. It's low-hanging fruit. And you can do it this year because you are not a father on accident. So go watch It's a Wonderful Life and be a father on purpose.